September of 1658. The dim light of a field tent near Hadiach. Hetman Ivan Vyhovsky raises his quill over parchment, deciding the fate of all Eastern Europe. A heavy tension hangs in the stifling air. Polish envoys, with bated breath, await a historic signature capable of halting a decade of bloody slaughter. In our reality, this fragile compromise was mercilessly trampled by the ambitions of magnates, plunging the lands into the abyss of the ruin and surrendering the left bank Ukraine to the harsh rule of Moscow. But imagine a different outcome. The Sejm in Warsaw suppresses its pride, ratifies the Treaty of Hadiach, and forever alters the global balance of world powers. From the ashes of old conflicts, the Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian Commonwealth of three nations is born, an unprecedented union of the Kingdom of Poland, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, and the Grand Duchy of Ruthenia. Today, this colossus, stretching from the Baltic to the Black Sea, represents a true Slavic European union, inextricably linked by a web of high-speed maglev trains and common interests, inextricably linked by a web of high-speed maglev trains and common interests. The path to this unprecedented grandeur began with fierce debates in the Warsaw Sejm in the autumn of 1658. It was there, in the stuffy halls of the royal castle, that the fate of the treaty's ratification was decided, and every word uttered could have sparked a new civil war. King John II Casimir uses all his colossal political influence, blackmail, and secret bribes to convince the conservative Szlachta of the vital necessity of compromise. He personally explains to each magnate that without an alliance with the Cossacks, inevitable absorption by their neighbors awaits them. Despite the fierce resistance of Lithuanian elites and some crown magnates, the threat of complete state collapse does its work. With a majority of just a few votes, the weary deputies make a fateful decision and vote for the creation of the most powerful triple confederation in Europe. News of the ratification causes genuine shock in Moscow. Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich the Quiet, in a rage, crumples the spies' reports, clearly realizing the final collapse of his ambitious plans to absorb the rich Ukrainian lands and advance the Orthodox Empire westward. The Tsardom of Russia immediately mobilizes a massive 100,000-strong army under the command of Prince Trubetskoy. Moscow desperately hopes to crush the newborn union before it can strengthen, establish logistics, and fully integrate its disparate armed forces into a single steel fist. However, in the spring of 1659, the Russian regiments were no longer opposed by a scattered Cossack militia, but by a well-disciplined, united army of three nations. Under Vyhovsky's unified command, veterans gathered, clearly understanding that they were defending their common freedom. In the famous Battle of Konotop, a true tactical spectacle unfolds. Heavy Polish cavalry breaks through the flanks, Lithuanian infantry holds the center, and agile Cossack regiments lure the Tsar's voivodes into a deadly trap, inflicting an absolutely crushing and humiliating defeat on Trubetskoy's army. This grand triumph becomes the true baptism of fire for the new confederation. The brilliant victory seals the fragile alliance of Poles, Lithuanians, and Ruthenians not merely with ink on parchment, but with blood shed shoulder to shoulder on a single battlefield for common independence. The catastrophic defeat at Konotop forces Moscow to hastily switch to a deep defense. The Tsarist government is compelled to forever abandon its imperial claims to Kiev, Cherniv, and all of left bank Ukraine, focusing instead on defending its own borders from a possible counterattack by the united forces. Soon,
A new peace treaty, incredibly advantageous for Warsaw, is signed. It firmly establishes the eastern borders of the Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian Commonwealth of three nations, leaving strategically important Smolensk within its domain, and transforming the confederation into an unbreakable shield, reliably protecting Europe from eastern expansion.
After successfully eliminating the external threat, the complex but vitally necessary process of internal state-building begins. The Confederation embarks on a deep political integration of the Grand Duchy of Ruthenia, constructing a unique system of checks and balances unparalleled in world history. Ancient Kiev officially receives the status of the third equal capital of the vast power. Luxurious government institutions are hastily erected here, paved roads are built, and a regional Sejm convenes, where local deputies gain real power over taxes and the development of their rich territories. The influential Cossack Starshina officially receives all the privileges of the crown Szlachta, including coats of arms and voting rights. This wise decision forever changes the social structure of the eastern voivodeships, transforming yesterday's rebels into a reliable pillar of the throne and a loyal elite ready to defend their state. To govern the new lands, the highest state office of Ruthenian Chancellor is established. From now on, he, alongside his Polish and Lithuanian counterparts, determines the global foreign policy of this vast empire, fiercely defending the interests of the triumvirate, which all monarchs of Europe are forced to reckon with. A crucial step is the full legalization and state protection of the Orthodox faith. This brilliant political maneuver forever disarms Moscow of its main ideological trump card. No one will dare to use slogans about protecting oppressed co-religionists to justify bloody invasions of foreign lands anymore. The famous Kiev Mohyla Academy solemnly receives the status of a European university. Its ancient halls are filled with the best professors, transforming the institution into the main intellectual center of the entire Orthodox world. It is here that a new, enlightened elite is forged, capable of leading Eastern Europe to an unprecedented cultural and scientific flourishing. Soon, an era of phenomenal economic boom begins, based on total control over key trade arteries. The vast power holds a strategic corridor from the cold Baltic Sea to the warm waters of the Black Sea in a death grip, dictating its commercial terms and collecting generous duties from foreign merchants. Golden grain from the boundless, fertile Ukrainian steppes now flows uninterruptedly along the full-flowing Vistula and Dnieper. This endless stream of wheat feeds a hungry Western Europe, enriching the Confederation's state treasury with astronomical revenues and transforming local landowners into true financial magnates of continental scale. Northern Gdansk and southern Odessa, founded prematurely on the site of the old Ottoman fortress of Hadji Bey, rapidly transform into the wealthiest port metropolises. Their bustling docks are crammed with goods, and in luxurious merchant guilds, deals are struck that directly determine the fates of markets in London and Amsterdam. By the end of the 17th century, the monolithic Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian Commonwealth of three nations becomes an absolute guarantor of stability. In this perpetually restless Eastern European region, where endless uprisings once flared, an iron order now reigns. A massive Slavic buffer reliably separates ambitious empires, cooling the ardor of the most aggressive neighbors. When the Great Northern War erupts in 1700, the Confederation coolly declares strict armed neutrality. Warsaw, Vilnius, and Kiev categorically refuse to allow foreign armies onto their sovereign territory,
threatening immediate annihilation to anyone who dares to cross their sacred eastern or western borders. Swedish King Charles XII and Russian Tsar Peter I gnash their teeth in impotent fury. They are forced to wage their exhausting battles, bypassing the gigantic Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian shield. Imagine, major battles unfold somewhere on the periphery without affecting the flourishing cities of the mighty triumvirate. Thanks to this cynical but brilliant strategy, the power completely avoids devastation. While its frenzied neighbors exhaust their human and financial resources for decades in a protracted bloody slaughter, the lands of the three nations prosper. Here, villages do not burn, and peasants calmly gather record harvests. The Confederation's economy skyrockets on profitable military supplies to both warring parties. Cunning merchants sell everything necessary: cloth, gunpowder, and horses to both Swedes and Russians, accumulating colossal gold reserves in the vaults of the National Bank. The neighbors' war becomes the most profitable business project of the century. The brilliant Age of Enlightenment dawns in the 18th century, bringing the most advanced European philosophical ideas to Warsaw, Vilnius, and Kiev. In secular salons and university auditoriums, a new generation of thinkers emerges, whose worldview demands immediate modernization of outdated state institutions and bold reforms. The local intellectual elite crystal clearly realizes the destructiveness of the notorious liberum veto right. Patriots launch a large-scale and aggressive political campaign for radical reforms. They understand, if one bribed deputy can disrupt the work of the entire Sejm, the state is doomed to become easy prey for external enemies. In the 1750s, long before the events of our reality, the Sejm makes a truly historic decision. Under pressure from the enlightened majority, the destructive right of unanimity is abolished. This resolute step saves the vast country from administrative paralysis and forever closes the era of political chaos and anarchy. A clear principle of majority rule is introduced. Now the central authority can effectively govern the country, seamlessly collect taxes, build fortresses, and most importantly, maintain a massive, regular, professional army. The state mechanism begins to operate like a reliable Swiss watch, leaving no chance for sabotage by corrupt magnates. A unified general staff is formed, which, with a firm hand, modernizes the armed forces according to the advanced Prussian model. Infantry receives the latest muskets and drill training, artillery is standardized, yet the unique, deadly traditions of heavy cavalry, striking primal terror into any potential adversary, are carefully preserved. The steady strengthening of the Eastern European Confederation causes extreme, undisguised irritation in Empress Catherine the Great. She dreams of expanding the Russian Empire westward into fertile lands. But instead of a fragmented, weak Poland, she encounters an insurmountable steel wall of bayonets and cannons from the united Slavic nations. Any, even the most sophisticated attempts by St. Petersburg to interfere in the internal affairs of the Commonwealth are harshly suppressed. Each provocation is met with a powerful diplomatic ultimatum and a demonstrative deployment of guard regiments to the border. Russian diplomacy retreats in disgrace, realizing the absolute impossibility of imposing its will on its neighbor. Prussia and Austria, seeing a monolithic superpower with a superbly armed 500,000-strong army before them, do not even contemplate partition plans in their wildest fantasies. On the contrary, Berlin and Vienna are forced to curry favor with Warsaw, seeking its patronage and begging for advantageous trade contracts. Instead of tragic partitions and occupation, Eastern Europe experiences an unprecedented flourishing of the unique culture of Neo-Sarmatism. This vibrant phenomenon organically intertwines strict Catholic and deep Orthodox traditions, giving birth to an entirely new aesthetic. The nation realizes its great destiny, proud of the common heritage of three equal peoples.
The palaces of influential magnates are now adorned with majestic portraits of ancestors in gleaming knightly armor. Elements of traditional Cossack and Szlachta attire rapidly enter high political fashion. Wearing an expensive silk kontush and a saber at the belt becomes a sign of impeccable taste and devotion to one's state. The 19th century dawns, and dark clouds of the Napoleonic Wars rapidly gather over Europe, threatening to drastically redraw the map of the entire continent. The roar of French cannons makes old monarchies tremble, but the enormous Slavic colossus coolly awaits the unfolding of events. The brilliant strategist Napoleon Bonaparte clearly realizes, without the military and logistical support of the Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian Commonwealth of three nations, his ambitious campaign to the east is doomed to a crushing failure. The Corsican is forced to personally send his most skilled diplomats to Warsaw with generous promises. The Confederation begins to skillfully balance between assertive France and conservative anti-French coalitions. Chancellors in Warsaw, Vilnius, and Kiev masterfully play a diplomatic game, coolly bargaining for maximum geopolitical advantages for their power from someone else's conflict, pursuing only their own well-being. Ultimately, Warsaw concludes a strictly equal defensive alliance with Paris. The document is so cunningly drafted that it prevents French troops from dominating the Confederation's territory, transforming Napoleon's Grand Army merely into a convenient tool for strictly curbing Berlin's aggressive ambitions. After Bonaparte's inevitable fall, at the historic Congress of Vienna, the Confederation already acts as one of the great victorious powers. Slavic diplomats dictate harsh peace terms to their defeated neighbors in an authoritative tone, forever solidifying their status as an unshakable European hegemon. The mid-19th century brings a new severe trial, the famous Spring of Nations. Throughout Europe, national liberation uprisings fiercely erupt. Barricades block the streets of Paris and Vienna. Monarchs in panic abandon their possessions and flee, escaping the wrath of rebellious crowds. But thanks to its incredibly flexible federal structure, the Commonwealth successfully avoids bloody disintegration. The Sejm acts proactively, granting even greater economic autonomy to the regions and extinguishing any sparks of separatism with generous investments in local infrastructure and culture. Soon, a progressive new constitution is adopted, finally transforming the vast country into a modern constitutional monarchy with a strong democratic parliament. Citizens' rights are now reliably protected by law, and freedom of speech becomes an unshakable foundation for the rapid development of an advanced civil society. A grand era of rapid industrialization begins. Coal-rich Silesia, ore-rich Donbas, and textile Łódź are rapidly covered by a dense forest of smoking factory chimneys and tall mine headframes. The vast power takes its due, eagerly absorbing new technologies and transforming into an industrial empire. Tough steel magnates and shrewd coal barons become the new powerful elite. With their bottomless capital, they confidently displace the old landed aristocracy, taking their place on the political Olympus, dictating advantageous laws to the Sejm, and generously funding large-scale technological exhibitions. The state pragmatically invests colossal funds in railway construction. These gleaming steel arteries reliably connect the three capitals, cutting through the boundless expanses from the Vistula to the Dnieper, and forever eliminating the centuries-old problem of vast distances, contributing to progress. The heavy freight trains thunder from the Baltic shipyards straight to the warm Black Sea ports. This brilliant logistics ensures unprecedented labor mobility, transforming the Confederation into a single, flawlessly operating economic mechanism, reliably protecting its prosperity. At the very same time, the Russian Empire, forever cut off from Europe by the insurmountable Slavic shield, is forced to strictly direct all its expansion into Asia. St. Petersburg painfully realizes that the Western vector of development is closed to it forever, changing its direction. Russian emperors maniacally concentrate on conquering arid Central Asia and the Far East. The empire increasingly distances itself from turbulent European political processes, gradually transforming into an isolated Asian despotism, stubbornly pursuing its own course and defending its influence. By the beginning of the tumultuous 20th century, the Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian Commonwealth of three nations becomes an absolute industrial locomotive. Its powerful economy literally breathes down the neck of the ambitious German Empire, flooding world markets with quality steel, modern machinery, and first-class grain, asserting its leadership. Fundamental science thrives incredibly in the country. The oldest universities of Warsaw, Vilnius, and Kiev annually graduate thousands of brilliant engineers, chemists, and physicists. In their modern laboratories, cutting-edge discoveries are born, for which local scientists regularly receive prestigious Nobel Prizes. A state-of-the-art military-industrial complex rapidly develops. Brilliant designers create the first formidable prototypes of heavy armored vehicles and advanced military aviation. These steel monsters are designed to reliably protect thousands of kilometers of open plains borders from any encroachments by envious and aggressive neighbors. When the flame of the First World War ignites in Europe in the fateful 1914, the Confederation faces the most serious challenge in its centuries-old history. Old empires thirst for blood, and the world holds its breath, awaiting what weighty word Warsaw will utter. Relying on its colossal military might, the country coolly declares strict armed neutrality. The Sejm issues a stern ultimatum, openly threatening total war against any state whose soldiers dare to take even one wrong step across the sacred borders of the Triple Confederation. Neither Imperial Germany nor Tsarist Russia dares to open a ruinous front against the bristling Slavic giant. This brilliant political bluff saves all of Eastern Europe from a bloody meat grinder, preserving millions of lives and its enormous economic advantage. The interwar period becomes a true golden age for the Confederation's economy. While bloodied neighbors lick their wounds, factories in Warsaw and Łódź operate in 3 shifts, continuously supplying steel, coal, and bread to the still recovering markets of devastated Europe, fabulously enriching the state treasury. Culture experiences an unprecedented boom. The cinematography of the 3 capitals creates true masterpieces that easily compete with Hollywood worldwide. Lavish premieres in Kiev theaters attract the bohemia, while Lithuanian directors set trends for noir, captivating audiences from Paris to New York. The architectural appearance of the metropolises transforms beyond recognition. The first reinforced concrete skyscrapers in a daring Art Deco style, elegantly intertwined with elements of traditional Sarmatian Baroque, pierce the sky. Facades are adorned with forged eagles and Cossack coats of arms, reflecting the rays of the setting sun in panoramic windows. Radical social reforms are ahead of their time. The government introduces universal suffrage, firmly establishes an 8-hour workday,
and creates an advanced healthcare system. Every citizen, from a Volhynian peasant to a Gdansk dock worker, feels reliably protected, which completely cuts off any revolutionary sentiments. However, in the 1930s, the world plunges into darkness once again. Aggressive Nazism rears its head in the West, while a totalitarian Soviet empire rapidly strengthens in the East. The Confederation finds itself squeezed between two harsh dictatorships, ready to tear it apart at any moment. Fully aware of the inevitability of a new global conflict, the government pours astronomical budgets into absolutely secret military developments. In closed laboratories near Krakow and Chernihiv, the best minds work day and night, forging their weapon of retribution, capable of cooling the ardor of even the most insane conqueror. Impregnable lines of defense are erected in the east and west. Thousands of kilometers bristle with underground bunkers, heavy artillery, and minefields. These are not just trenches, but true underground cities, capable of holding circular defense for months under relentless enemy fire. In an alternative 1939, Hitler, having carefully studied intelligence data on the might of the Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian army, falls into a rage, but abandons plans for a direct invasion. Attacking such a colossus means signing his own death warrant even before the campaign begins. World War II unfolds according to a completely different, unpredictable scenario. Eastern Europe remains an impregnable fortress, reliably preserving millions of lives. While hell rages on other fronts, the Slavic shield does not allow a single enemy tank to cross its borders. In the post-war, still wounded world, the Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian Commonwealth of three nations becomes the undisputed leader of the non-aligned movement. Skillfully maneuvering, Warsaw forms its powerful third bloc in Europe, attracting countries weary of endless blackmail from Washington and Moscow. This geopolitical alliance successfully resists both American and harsh Soviet influence. The Confederation offers the world its alternative vision, where market capitalism intertwines with strong social guarantees, proving that prosperity does not require surrendering national sovereignty. In the midst of the Cold War, the ambitious power actively joins the space race. Far from prying eyes, on the sunny Black Sea coast, launch pads for its own cosmodrome are erected. The roar of rocket engines announces that the Slavs are ready to conquer distant stars. And then, a historic moment. The first Slavic cosmonaut embarks on an Earth orbit. The rocket, designed from screw to casing in Kiev and Warsaw design bureaus, pierces the atmosphere, forever inscribing its name into the golden fund of boundless space exploration. The information age dawns, and the state places its strategic bet on the rapid development of cybernetics. All of this is generously funded by the government, keenly aware that in the new millennium, silicon chips, clever algorithms, and bottomless streams of digital data will rule the world. Vilnius rapidly transforms into the Eastern European Silicon Valley. The continent's largest corporations are based on its narrow cobblestone streets. Young geniuses in sweaters write code that manages European stock exchanges, creating a digital shield that reliably protects the triple power's secrets from hacker attacks. Economic sovereignty is definitively secured when colossal energy deposits are discovered on the Black Sea shelf. Drilling platforms pump oil and gas day and night, providing the country with 100% energy independence and depriving neighbors of any chance for blackmail during cold winter months. At the beginning of the 21st century, an incredibly ambitious project takes root.
Engineers begin constructing an innovative network of high-speed maglev trains. Billions of golden zlotys are invested in infrastructure to forever change logistics and unite vast territories. Elegant maglevs, literally hovering above the ground, reduce travel time between Warsaw, Vilnius, and Kiev to mere hours. Imagine, in the morning you drink coffee on the banks of the Vistula, and by lunchtime you are already strolling along Hrashatik, oblivious to the vast distances. Today's Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian Commonwealth of 3 nations is an absolute superpower with a population of over 100 million people and its colossal gross domestic product. It is the economic locomotive of the continent, whose might respectfully silences all skeptics, both in the corridors of Brussels and the offices of Washington. The political system represents a unique federation, refined over centuries. Each of the 3 nations has its legal right of veto on key issues. No fateful decision is made without full consensus, which excludes any discrimination and makes the union as strong as a monolith. The 3-chamber Sejm is the beating heart of the Confederation. Sessions are held alternately in Warsaw, Vilnius, and Kiev. This filigree mechanism ensures that no one usurps power, an ideal balance where the voice of each nation sounds firm and equal, protecting its future. The legendary office of Grand Hetman has not vanished into oblivion, but has transformed into the post of Supreme Commander-in-Chief. Every 5 years, citizens elect a leader responsible for the entire army. This is no longer just a military commander, but a guarantor of security, whose word carries incredible weight. The country's cultural landscape captivates with its vibrant diversity. On the same streets, Gothic Catholic churches, majestic Orthodox cathedrals with golden domes, and modern synagogues peacefully coexist. This is not a melting pot, but an exquisite mosaic where each detail retains its unique identity. Official multilingualism has long been routine here. From infancy, every citizen freely masters Polish, Lithuanian, and Ukrainian languages. Political debates easily switch from one dialect to another, and no one asks for translation. All of this creates absolute mutual understanding, reliably erasing any barriers. The aesthetics of neo-Semitism dictate fashion not only on the streets, but also in high politics. At official receptions, ministers proudly wear stylized kontuses and silk sashes. This unique dress code emphasizes their connection to ancestors, transforming diplomatic receptions into living canvases of the 17th century. Modern Warsaw is a metropolis gleaming with neon lights. Here, gigantic mirrored skyscrapers harmoniously coexist with meticulously restored royal palaces. The Old Town and the business center have intertwined, showing how carefully the nation preserves its past while rapidly stepping into a high-tech future. Kiev, in turn, impresses with its colossal scale, sprawling freely along both steep banks of the Dnieper. Today, it is Europe's main agro-technological hub. In its offices, algorithms are created that manage boundless wheat fields, reliably providing food for millions of people, and all of this operates like a perfect clockwork. Vilnius, however, remains homely and cozy, yet an incredibly high-tech center. It is here, among winding streets and ancient town halls, that corporations dictating global trends in cybersecurity are based. This city has become a true brain trust where the Confederation's artificial intelligence is forged. The Confederation's armed forces are the steel shield of Eastern Europe. The army, armed to the teeth with heavy combat drones and the latest hypersonic weapons, is deservedly considered the most combat-ready on the entire continent. No one in their right mind would even dare to test the strength of these impregnable frontiers. Such colossal military might allows the state to pursue an absolutely independent foreign policy. The diplomats of the three nations confidently pursue their course, clearly and without any regard for reprimands from Brussels, Washington, or Beijing. They know their worth and do not compromise their sovereignty. The country's borders are securely locked, and its brilliant diplomatic corps plays a key role in resolving global crises. Their authoritative opinion is heeded everywhere, for behind every word of an ambassador stands a real power that everyone simply has to reckon with. In history lessons, schoolchildren are enthusiastically told how the successful signing of the Treaty of Hadiach changed everything. They are shown how Hetman Vyhovsky's quill thwarted the plans of empires and saved their lands. It was then that their ancestors defended their right to freedom, laying the foundation for current prosperity. At the same time, scientists constantly model grim scenarios of what would have happened if the Warsaw Sejm had then succumbed to Szlachta pride. What if the deputies had dug in their heels and arrogantly rejected the saving agreement? These hypotheses make the blood run cold even for the most dispassionate researchers. Researchers describe with genuine horror the hypothetical era of the so-called ruin. In this dark parallel reality, endless fratricidal wars literally burn the region to the ground, and the bled-out Ukrainian lands are eventually mercilessly absorbed by the insatiable Russian Empire, forever losing their independence. In this same grim paradigm, weakened Poland and Lithuania would inevitably become easy victims of brutal partitions. Their territories would simply be torn to pieces by aggressive neighbors, Prussia, Austria, and Russia. Entire nations would be erased from the political map for long decades. But fortunately, in our world, common sense ultimately prevailed. Politicians managed to curb their ambitions, granting the three Slavic nations long centuries of incredible prosperity and grandeur. Instead of ashes and slavery, they chose the difficult but salvific path of compromise, creating an invincible confederation. The economic model of this superpower is reliably built on a brilliant symbiosis. On one hand, advanced high-tech manufacturing and heavy industry. On the other, a powerful agro-industrial complex. This balance makes the economy virtually invulnerable to any global crises, ensuring citizens a well-fed and peaceful life. The country confidently holds the status of the main food exporter in all of Europe. Daily, thousands of freight trains and ships depart to all corners of the planet, ensuring global food security. If bread is baked somewhere in the world, there's a high probability it's made from local grain. The financial bloodstream relies on the national currency, the golden zloty. It is deservedly considered one of the most stable and reliable reserve currencies in the world. Central banks from Tokyo to New York prefer to store their savings in it, trusting the ironclad Slavic economy. Social policy here is clearly focused on people. Huge budgets are allocated to maintaining high birth rates and providing young families with affordable housing. The state massively builds eco-friendly suburbs where every child grows up in harmony with nature and parents do not worry about their future. Ecology has long been an absolute national priority here. Huge state funds are purposefully invested in renewable energy and deep river purification. The Vistula, Dnieper, and Niemen are so clean today that sturgeon once again splash in them, and wind turbines on the Baltic coast provide energy for entire metropolises. The ancient Białowieża forest and the forested slopes of the Carpathians have been transformed into gigantic, strictly protected national parks.
Every hectare of relict forest is under round-the-clock satellite monitoring. Poaching has been completely eradicated here, and bison and bears roam vast territories, knowing no fear of humans.
In the realm of mass art, the genre of alternative history unequivocally dominates. Local authors morbidly fantasize about what would have happened if the Confederation had disintegrated. Writers invent gruesome scenarios where Poles, Lithuanians, and Ruthenians kill each other, and their lands are divided by greedy neighbors. Such grim dystopian films consistently fill theaters from Gdansk to Odessa. They serve as a powerful psychological inoculation, constantly reminding viewers of the fragility of peace. Watching the fictional slaughter on screens, citizens even more strongly realize the incredible value of their state unity. Sporting achievements are another unconditional source of colossal national pride. The united national team of 3 nations, competing in red, white, and blue colors, regularly wins world football championships. When their captain lifts the golden cup above his head, the 3 capitals literally explode with universal jubilation. The local educational system masterfully absorbed the strict traditions of Jesuit colleges and the democratic spirit of Orthodox Brotherhood schools. All of this was brilliantly adapted to the challenges of modernity. Today's Confederation high school student is equally proficient in ancient philosophy, quantum physics, and complex machine learning algorithms. Thousands of ambitious students from all over the world literally dream of entering the elite universities of this confederation. Competitions for faculties of engineering, advanced medicine, and humanities break all records. A diploma from a Warsaw, Vilnius, or Kyiv university opens any doors from Silicon Valley to Tokyo. Research clusters and scientific centers in Krakow, Lviv, and Kaunas operate with incredible efficiency. Their scientists regularly become Nobel laureates, presenting groundbreaking discoveries to the world. It was here, in secret laboratories beneath the Carpathians, that the first commercially successful room-temperature superconductor was synthesized. Local medicine has reached truly unprecedented heights. Thanks to generous state programs for deep genome research, doctors have learned to effectively block the mechanisms of aging. The average life expectancy in the Commonwealth has long exceeded 90 years, and severe hereditary diseases remain only in history textbooks. The infrastructure of ancient cities has been carefully redesigned with maximum resident comfort in mind. Boundless pedestrian zones, hundreds of kilometers of dedicated bike paths, and an incredible abundance of green spaces captivate the imagination. There are no suffocating traffic jams here. All heavy transport has long been moved into a complex network of underground tunnels. Naturally, tourism brings colossal revenues to the Confederation's treasury. Millions of travelers from all continents flock here annually, drawn by the desire to see this unique, living blend of cultures. For many, it's the only chance to experience an alternative European civilization that has not lost its historical identity. Foreign guests are genuinely captivated by the stern, majestic castles of Volhynia, where powerful princes once convened. They are mesmerized by the sharp spires of Gdansk's Gothic cathedrals and the elegant forms of Vilnius's Baroque churches. Every building here seems to breathe the history of that very triumphant union which avoided bloody disintegration. Local gastronomic culture is a distinct art form. It organically united hearty Ukrainian borscht, spicy Polish bigos, and filling Lithuanian cepelini, transforming them into exquisite haute cuisine. Today, Michelin-starred Slavic fusion restaurants are incredibly popular worldwide, from Paris to Singapore. Internal politics are also unique.
A strong political opposition undoubtedly exists in the country, and debates in the Sejm can be quite heated. But all discussions concern exclusively vectors of economic development or tax rates. No one even hints at revising the inviolable foundations of confederative statehood.
Any radical nationalism was completely marginalized as early as the mid-19th century. This was made possible by an incredibly successful policy of deep federalization and strict equality of the three nations. In a society where each ethnic group has a powerful right of veto, inciting interethnic strife simply became meaningless.
The mass media here are absolutely free from government dictate. Journalists serve as true, ruthless watchdogs of democracy, instantly exposing the slightest hints of corruption in the highest echelons. Any official knows, if he takes a bribe, his face will grace the front pages of Warsaw newspapers tomorrow.
The local judicial system is renowned for its fantastic incorruptibility. Its foundation rests on centuries-old proven traditions of the Lithuanian statutes and classical Magdeburg law. Judges here possess undeniable authority, and their decisions are executed without question, whether before them stands a simple farmer or an influential magnate from the Forbes list. Civil society itself is incredibly active and self-sufficient. Tens of thousands of volunteer organizations and local brotherhoods daily solve pressing local problems without waiting for the intervention of the cumbersome state. This tradition of Schlachter self-organization is literally woven into the genetic code of every citizen of the great Commonwealth. Despite all its peacefulness, military service here is considered the highest and most honorable duty. Every healthy citizen is required to undergo an intensive basic territorial defense course. The ability to shoot accurately and operate tactical drones is valued as highly as the ability to masterfully wield a saber once was. Internal security is at an unparalleled level. The closed arsenal of the Confederation's special services contains the most advanced quantum technologies and neural networks for the preventive deterrence of any terrorist threats. Enemy agents literally don't even manage to cross the border. They are detected at the stage of purchasing a ticket to Warsaw. The Commonwealth's space program is preparing to make an unprecedented historical leap: the launch of the first crewed mission to Mars. Preparations are underway at a secret cosmodrome near Odessa. This grand flight is intended to definitively secure for the Triple Confederation the undisputed status of the planet's leading technological superpower. Meanwhile, the Jan Sobieski lunar base is already successfully operating in the Tycho crater. Automated rovers continuously extract rare helium-3 isotopes necessary to power the most powerful new-generation thermonuclear reactors, providing uninterrupted energy to vast metropolises from Gdańsk to Kyiv. Warsaw's foreign policy is masterfully built on the principles of soft power. The vast power actively exports the ideals of Slavic democracy and religious tolerance to developing countries in Africa and Asia. Generously funded humanitarian missions build schools and hospitals, forming loyal protectorates without a single shot fired. And what about Russia? In this reality, it has transformed into a small but cozy democratic republic, confined far beyond the Ural Mountains. Warsaw's relations with its Siberian neighbor remain distinctly pragmatic. The Confederation readily purchases timber from them in exchange for high-tech processes. The dialogue with Western Europe is built on a foundation of equal partnership, although Paris and Berlin are often forced to accept the role of junior partners. The Old World openly envies the colossal pace of economic growth of the Slavic giant, which regularly acts as a condescending older brother. The secret to this wealth is simple.
All overland transcontinental trade routes from rapidly growing Asia to Europe pass exclusively through the sovereign territory of the Commonwealth. The Great Silk Road of the 21st century consists of the steel rails of maglevs inextricably linking Beijing, Kiev, and Warsaw. It is this geographical jackpot that makes the country the main beneficiary of globalization. By strictly controlling key logistical hubs in Eurasia, the Confederation dictates its terms to international corporations. Imagine, not a single container of microchips will enter Europe without passing through customs terminals near Brest. Astronomical transit fees and customs duties pour into the state treasury like golden rain. This allows the government to maintain an unprecedentedly low level of taxes for its own citizens. The average entrepreneur in Vilnius pays 3 times less in fees than his bureaucracy-ridden competitor in London. Lviv has become the financial heart of this empire. Its gleaming stock exchange district mercilessly dictates stock prices across all Eastern European markets. Local brokers in impeccably tailored suits with elements of Sarmatian style playfully compete with the sharks of Wall Street, Frankfurt, and the City of London. Innovative startups grow here like mushrooms after rain, receiving incredibly generous support through state funds. Young engineers from Krakow and Kharkiv create breakthrough technologies, stimulating continuous progress that leaves the entire global community far behind in the fierce race for innovation. Artificial intelligence is no longer science fiction. It is deeply integrated into the system of state governance. Complex algorithms analyze expenditures and instantly optimize bureaucratic procedures. Decisions that once took months of red tape are now made by neural networks in seconds, while neighbors are still drowning in paperwork. Every citizen of the Triple Union has a securely encrypted digital passport. This virtual document provides instant access to absolutely all state services via a regular smartphone. Forget about queues. Business registration, fine payments, or doctor's appointments are done with a single light touch of the screen. To protect citizens' minds in the era of post-truth, a mandatory and strict subject on media literacy has been introduced in schools. From a young age, children are taught to think critically, recognize deepfakes, and filter information garbage, reliably protecting society from cheap political manipulations and hostile propaganda. The rapid demographic growth is supported not only by traditionally high birth rates, but also by an extremely pragmatic immigration policy. The government strictly screens out illegal immigrants, but widely opens its doors to qualified specialists ready to assimilate, learn the language, and make a significant contribution to the economy of the great power. The country literally sucks in the best minds from all over the globe. Outstanding scientists, architects, and programmers massively relocate to Kiev and Warsaw, finding here their ideal place to live, boundless budgets for bold research, and absolute freedom for professional self-realization. At the same time, the architectural appearance of new residential quarters is strictly regulated by stringent laws. No faceless concrete boxes. Ambitious developers are obliged to carefully preserve the historical identity of cities. Modern glass facades elegantly intertwine with elements of Renaissance and Baroque, creating a unique aesthetic delight. For the restoration of ancient estates, restorers massively use industrial three-dimensional printers. These high-precision machines recreate lost elements of stucco, sculptures, and ancient buildings with truly jeweler's precision. Historical heritage is guarded like the apple of an eye, transforming every street into a luxurious open-air museum. Agriculture has long ceased to be heavy manual labor. Fully autonomous combines work in the boundless fields, and swarms of agro-drones continuously scan the soil. The farmer's labor has transformed into a highly prestigious engineering profession. Now the agriculturist manages their harvest while sipping warm coffee in front of smart office monitors. Bold genetic engineering has allowed local biologists to develop unique varieties of golden wheat absolutely resistant to any climatic anomalies, pests, and droughts. These supercrops yield fantastic harvests, definitively securing for the Confederation the status of the planet's main granary, reliably feeding almost half the globe. The country's climate policy is officially recognized as exemplary at the UN tribunes. Thanks to colossal investments in green energy and large-scale forest planting, the state has fully fulfilled its promise of zero emissions. The air over industrial Silesia today is as clean as in the Carpathian Mountains.
Modern youth do not sit idly on cozy sofas. They fiercely storm the political Olympus, creating audacious parties and flexible network movements. Fresh blood in the Sejm ensures that laws reflect the spirit of the digital age, and aging politicians are forced to reckon with the ambitions of a new generation of voters. Despite the triumph of technology, the ancient institution of hetmanate lives and thrives. Today, the Supreme Commander-in-Chief is not just a person with a nuclear briefcase. This is an undeniable moral authority, a living symbol of historical continuity, who with a single weighty word can unite three nations in moments of the most severe crises.
The tradition of nationwide election of the hetman itself has transformed into a grand political show. Open televised debates of candidates gather hundreds of millions of viewers across Europe. No backroom dealings. The future leader must prove their sharp mind and iron will under the crossfire of ruthless journalists. In cinematography, the genre of historical detective fiction unequivocally reigns supreme. Audiences adore stylish blockbusters where charismatic detectives in luxurious silk jupons unravel dark 17th century political conspiracies. These films rake in colossal box office, skillfully weaving real archival documents into a tense and dynamic Hollywood narrative. The Confederation's music industry has achieved a true global expansion. Energetic Slavic ethnopop, masterfully blending guitar riffs, electronic beats, and the sounds of an ancient hurdy-gurdy, has firmly occupied the top spots on world charts. From Tokyo to New York, youth dance to tracks recorded in ultra-modern studios in Kiev and Warsaw. Literature is experiencing its golden renaissance, giving birth to a whole galaxy of brilliant authors. Their sharp, poignant novels are instantly translated into dozens of languages, sweeping prestigious international awards. Writers masterfully interpret the unique experience of coexistence of three cultures, transforming local Eastern European dramas into universal stories about human destiny. National holidays here are celebrated with truly imperial grandeur. Wide avenues tremble as elite mounted guards in gleaming cuirasses march, paying homage to the traditions of winged hussars. And when dark night falls, the historical facades of buildings serve as a canvas for grandiose laser shows, projecting epic scenes of great victories. The most sacred day in the calendar is the anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Hadiach. This is not just a routine day off, but the main state holiday. All of this symbolizes the unbreakable unity of ancestors, reminding that once cold political calculation and wise compromise proved far more important than shed blood and blind rage. Precisely at midnight, colossal fireworks erupt over the three equal capitals, Warsaw, Vilnius, and Kiev. The dark sky is illuminated by millions of lights, painting the clouds in the national colors of the Confederation. This synchronized salute is broadcast live, making the hearts of millions of citizens beat in a single patriotic rhythm. A careful attitude towards the past is manifested in the creation of incredible interactive museums. Forget dusty display cases and boring tour guides. Today, every visitor can literally step into the 17th century. The smells of gunpowder, the clamor of sane debates, and the voices of long-gone heroes are recreated with startling historical accuracy.
In history lessons, school children no longer cram dry dates. They put on lightweight virtual reality helmets and are transported directly to the epicenter of events. Teenagers witness with their own eyes how the fate of an entire continent is decided in the dim light of the tent, feeling the colossal tension of that fateful autumn.
Right before them, Hetman Ivan Vychovsky takes the quill, sighs heavily, and places a sweeping signature on the parchment. Virtual Polish envoys exhale in relief, rejoicing at the agreement reached. At this very moment, the viewer physically feels how the ruthless pendulum of history forever changes its bloody trajectory. This profound visual experience works true wonders on impressionable minds. Future voters learn a critically important lesson from an early age. A bad peace is always better than a good quarrel. They clearly understand the true price of political compromise, which saved their ancestors from fratricidal slaughter and total annihilation. Thanks to such upbringing, leading sociologists record an unprecedentedly high level of citizen trust in state institutions. People clearly realize that parliament and courts work for their benefit, not serving the interests of a narrow clique of oligarchs. Authority here is perceived as a reliable partner, not an enemy. The very concept of corruption has been reduced to an absolute minimum, becoming a shameful relic of the past. Total digitalization has ensured crystal-clear transparency of all financial flows. Any suspicious transfer is instantly tracked by algorithms, and strict control by civil society leaves no chance for corrupt officials. The local police have long ceased to be a punitive body, inspiring primal fear. Armed officers are perceived exclusively as a high-class service for protecting basic rights and freedoms. Their main task is to help and prevent misfortune, not to chase statistics by brutally punishing erring fellow citizens on the streets of peaceful cities. The Confederation's penitentiary system has been completely restructured for the deep resocialization of those who have erred. Prisons resemble strict educational campuses where inmates receive in-demand professions and psychological assistance. Such a humane approach has worked a true miracle, making the level of street crime in the country one of the lowest in the entire world. However, the country's peacefulness is reliably guarded by steel fists on its borders. Foreign intelligence operates masterfully, like an invisible surgeon's scalpel. Secret agents coolly neutralize any attempts by foreign powers to destabilize the situation in the Eastern European region, eliminating hybrid threats even at their nascent stage in foreign capitals. On the open arena, the Commonwealth's diplomats shine, demonstrating their phenomenal ability to find solutions to the toughest international crises. Their elegant multi-step strategies and filigree mastery of negotiation compel respect for the Confederation even from those geopolitical players who gnash their teeth in overt, impotent malice. Firmly relying on colossal economic power, the country acts as the main sponsor of large-scale development programs in third-world countries. Building schools in Africa and hospitals in Asia, The Slavic giant exports technologies and continuously strengthens its influence, cementing its undeniable global authority on the international stage. Within the Confederation itself, genuine regional self-governance flourishes, having forever buried cumbersome metropolitan bureaucracy. Municipalities from Gdansk to Poltava receive the broadest financial powers, leaving the lion's share of taxes locally. Imagine, mayors of small districts manage budgets comparable to the treasuries of entire European states. Thanks to such decentralization, each city acquires its unique architectural code. The development strategy for neighborhoods is meticulously agreed upon with local residents at electronic Sejm. Strict regulations prohibit bland construction, transforming urbanism into a high art where glass and concrete organically intertwine with Baroque ensembles. The transport infrastructure of this colossus amazes the imagination of even the boldest futurists. In addition to maglevs hovering above the ground, metropolises are permeated by a dense network of deep underground highways. These colossal multi-level tunnels have completely freed historical centers from car traffic, giving sun-drenched streets back to pedestrians and cyclists. Look up, and you will see thousands of eco-friendly air taxis busily traversing the airspace above the three capitals. Controlled by advanced artificial intelligence, these silent machines glide smoothly between the spires of skyscrapers. No accidents or malfunctions. Neural networks calculate ideal flight paths every second. In the sterile laboratories of Krakow and Kharkiv, medical nanobots have long become a routine reality. Tiny mechanisms, circulating through citizens' blood vessels, meticulously destroy pathogens and restore damaged tissues directly at the cellular level. Severe diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries are vanquished here forever. Classical education here has transformed into a continuous, captivating, lifelong process. Adult specialists regularly undergo high-tech retraining courses funded by generous state grants. Engineers easily become biotechnologists, and former agronomists master quantum computer programming without losing a single penny of income. Retirement in the Confederation is not an ending away, but the beginning of the brightest stage. Elderly citizens lead astonishingly active lifestyles, traveling extensively to exotic countries and enthusiastically participating in international volunteer missions. Their accumulated experience is highly valued by the entire society. Such impeccable social harmony is achieved through the crystal-clear and fair distribution of colossal national wealth. Super-profits from transit and high-tech exports are evenly distributed among all strata of society. There is no blatant poverty here, just as there is no caste of untouchable oligarchs detached from reality. The local political and financial elite has clearly learned one iron rule: their own well-being and security directly depend on the living standards of ordinary citizens. New-era magnates invest billions of golden zlotys in social infrastructure, understanding that a contented society is the best guarantor of stability. This pragmatic philosophical paradigm, laid down by the brilliant thinkers of the Enlightenment era, became the unshakable foundation of the modern Eastern European state. The ideas of Hugo Kollontai and Grigory Skovoroda, stripped of the husk of time, transformed into a working mechanism where individual rights and the common good intertwined in a perfect symbiosis. Looking at this shining, prosperous superpower today, it is incredibly difficult to believe that its fate literally hung by the thinnest thread in the distant 17th century. All this grandiose futuristic triumph could have remained merely an unfulfilled fantasy on the yellowed pages of unrealized historical projects. Just one wrong political step,
Just one brief flash of blind Szlachta pride in the Warsaw Sejm could have forever erased this beautiful reality. If the magnates had then dug in their heels, Eastern Europe would have been engulfed by rivers of blood, and the country would have been mercilessly torn apart by greedy neighbors.
But fortunately for us, in this timeline, history took a completely different path. Pragmatism triumphed over ambition, convincingly proving that subtle diplomacy and genuine mutual respect can work true wonders. Yesterday's sworn enemies were able to sit down and reach an agreement.
The resurrected Polish-Lithuanian-Ruthenian Commonwealth of three nations became a living, tangible embodiment of a centuries-old dream of a united, incredibly strong, and absolutely free Eastern Europe. It transformed into a monolithic Slavic shield that neither Tsarist armies nor Prussian militarists nor the totalitarian dictatorships of the 20th century could pierce.
This great power vividly demonstrated to the entire world that completely different peoples can successfully unite for the common good. Poles, Lithuanians, and Ruthenians rallied into a single steel fist while carefully preserving their unique cultural heritage, language, and centuries-old religious traditions. This phenomenal historical experience is truly an invaluable lesson for all modern humanity, which is still torn apart by bloody conflicts and irreconcilable contradictions. The model of the Hadiach Compromise proves, even after brutal slaughter, a path to lasting peace and joint economic prosperity can be found. Today, admiring the futuristic landscapes of gleaming Warsaw, high-tech Vilnius, and monumental Kiev, we see the absolute triumph of human reason over primitive, destructive instincts. This is visible proof that creation is always more profitable than war, and an equal alliance is stronger than any forced assimilation. We see firsthand how a shared, albeit complex history, instead of eternally dividing people with old grievances, has become the strongest cement. This super-strong mortar has cemented the foundation for building a great common future, where there are no older and younger brothers, but only equal partners. And at the very center of this majestic geopolitical edifice, like a sacred grail, will forever remain that humble field tent near Hadiach, a place imbued with the smell of gunpowder and autumn dampness, where in distant September of 1658, the fate of an entire continent was decided. That very dim tent, where a few incredibly wise people managed to step over shed blood, overcome burning mutual grievances, and firmly extend hands to each other. Their signatures on a piece of parchment launched the greatest butterfly effect, gifting the Slavs this wondrous, shining new world. Their truly bold decision did not merely redraw the political map of the world, erasing from it the ambitions of Muscovite tsars and Prussian kings. It saved Eastern Europe from the bloody meat grinder of the ruin, saving millions of lives from senseless demise in endless fratricidal wars. Just one decisive stroke of the quill, made by Hetman Ivan Vyhovsky, launched the greatest butterfly effect. This clear signature, reliably sealed with wax, forever crossed out St. Petersburg's imperial plans. It saved nations from subjugation and gave life to a colossal power whose influence today is undeniable. And today, as you stand on a platform in Warsaw and a high-speed maglev train to Kiev glides past with a quiet hum, just listen. In that high-tech whisper, the echo of that very historical compromise which gifted us this wondrous world still lives.